Not in identity operator not working when checking empty string for certain characters. When checking if an empty string variable is populated with certain characters, the expression is always evaluated as true. If the newly created string value is empty, it should be false. It does not contain any characters, let alone the ones being checked for. When I hardcode a random character that is not the character being checked for, the expression is evaluated as false. I expect to see the debugger enter the while loop. What actually happens is it continues past the while block without executing.
An empty string is present in any string. Therefore your condition, difficulty not in will evaluate to false when difficulty equals, so the while loop's body won't be executed. A better approach might be to convert the string into a list via listim so that something like m or a, or an empty character doesn't break your loop, or avoid it from starting in the first place. Also, as at BLCKKNGHD suggested, a better alternative is use a default value of none for difficulty.
I think what you need to use is a list, instead of a string.
This is a good case for a do-while loop condition. But Python doesn't have it. Please check if the below style suits you. I do like it Emmett B's suggestion to use E, M, H in a loop rather than as a string. It makes sense also as you are expecting one of the character as input and not set of characters.
If you're inclined to live on the bleeding edge of Python, you might be interested in trying out Python 3.8, which is currently being developed, but alpha releases are available. A somewhat controversial new feature, introduced in PEP 572, is assignment expressions, which let you use column equals to do an assignment in the middle of another expression. The loop you're doing could take advantage of such an assignment to do the input and value checking all in one go, without needing to assign a bogus initial value to difficulty before entering the loop. Note that you probably still want to use a list rather than using not in with a string on the right side, as the latter does a substring check, not a strict sequence membership test. A substring test like difficulty not in will give unintended results for the empty string or the multi-letter inputs mh and m. If you might use your different difficulty strings as dictionary keys somewhere, for example to look up stats that vary with the difficulty setting, you might test if the input is a key in the dictionary directly, rather than building a separate list. Note that while you can use assignment expressions here, it's not necessarily a good idea to do so, just to avoid initializing a variable. You end up bundling up so many different things into a single line, the while, the input and upper calls, the assignment with column equals, and the not in test, that it can be easy to get confused about what is going on. Indeed, in my example above, I ended up creating a different variable, prompt, because the line would have been too long otherwise.
The solution is already mentioned, using a list will solve the problem, and initializing the variable to none is pretty clean, but there are so many different ways to do this, despite rule number 13 of the Zen of Python. One suggestion I have not seen mentioned yet is to use a separate boolean in the while expression, so you don't have to initialize the difficulty variable with an arbitrary invalid value, and don't need other continue, break, else, pass statements.
Do you want to